Hi, welcome to Monday Morning. It's George Nordhaus, and we are going to have something special today because we're going to have here what I would call the basic webinar on financial services cross-marketing. It's something that we all, of course, need to know. A lot of us don't do like we should, and so forth. But Marlin Bollinger is with the Bollinger Group. He's the president of the Bollinger Group down in Florida, and he is, well, let me show you, here's his picture, and let me show you what he will, where he's been. He has been in, Marlin, the picture, there you go, okay, there he is. He's been 25 years as producer, and he was with the Travelers, Senior Life Vice President. That was a big, big job, and he understands our business, and that's the good thing about it. So when I heard about him, and we heard about him, and he has a few things behind his name there, CFPC. I don't know what all that stands for, CLU, of course, but obviously he's been around a year or two. Anyhow, he has this an agency in an organization in Florida, and it's getting quite well known there, and he's going to be working with us very closely, and you're going to hear a lot more from him in the years to come. In fact, we're going to be having Marlin on one or another aspect of this every other month here on Monday mornings because, well, because he's the guy who knows. Marlon, when you talk to, you do a lot of selling, if that's the word, to independent agencies. I've even been a brokerage. That's your bag, I guess. Is that the biggest part of your business, incidentally, or do you?
Yeah, we are a financial services intermediary, so we distribute almost exclusively, George, through the independent distribution channel, and we also focus very heavily on the property casualty channel.
I got you. Okay, good. Well, that's who we are. So, all right. When you're talking to a property casualty agent, what do you say? Tell me your story.
Okay. What I'd like to do is take you through an actual presentation.
That'd be good.
Of
Yeah.
meeting with a property casualty principal and tell them really what we do that separates us from the pack and how to cross market and make it effective and really grow their revenues using financial services. So with that, let's go to the next slide. And we'll start the meeting by I'm asking the property casualty principal, what do you see here? And obviously that's a gorilla. So we go to the next slide.
Yep. Yeah. And you get a laugh on that one, I'm sure.
And we do. And they're going, where is this guy going with this? And we see a gorilla in a suit, a.k.a. life insurance agent. Now be honest with me, property casualty agency principal. How many of you have looked at us, and we'll call us the life guys for lack of anything else right now, as the gorilla in the suit? You know, one step above the used car salesman, the person come in that's going to pressure your good commercial account to buy life insurance, a different selling technique that you're not comfortable with. And I said, many of you will probably shake your head yes and say, yeah, you know, we had a guy in here one time and he did this and he did that and it didn't work out. And I said, I'd like you to forget all that because we're going to disprove or at least show you why it didn't work in your agency, and I'll show you what works, and it's on a guaranteed marketing system. So wow. That's how we start the meeting, and it gets a good laugh.
I bet so. Yeah, gets their attention, too, when you say a guaranteed marketing system.
Correct, and it is, and we'll get into that in a few minutes.
Let's go.
But let's look at the three most common goals of a property casualty agency. First of all, retention of your existing clients. Development of new clients, you've got to grow. And number three, financial stability. We all want to make a profit because we do run a business. Now, when I look at this, I scratch my head and said, property casualty goals? Well, it's any business, really. Those are the three most important things. But now we know that on the PC end of the business, competition is intense and a little more intense than it used to be. The market conditions can go from soft to hard, back to soft. And, you know, we've been in a relatively soft market for several years now. And the persistency and business retention, you know, the old bonuses we used to get, a lot of them aren't there anymore. There's consolidation not only at the carrier level, but also at the agency level also. So I'm not telling, you know, any principal anything they don't already know, but we know that the industry trends out there, there are pressure to tighten contingency agreements. There's a cost shift from the market to the agency. There's a technology expense, and our investment expenses are increasing. And we know that our profit margins are under pressure where they were not years ago when I first started working with property casualty agents.
Mm-hmm.
Now here on the life side, we know this. We know that 25%, these are numbers and facts that came from LIMRA, and 25% of independent life agents are over age 60, and the average agent is in their mid to now almost approaching late 50s. So here's what we really know, that there's got to be a shift in distribution of financial services products. It's not only coming, it's really here now. So I say, okay, there's going to be a shift and the independent distribution model is going to change. Who's got the ability to really pick up the slack and take advantage of the opportunities in this shift? Well, the firms that have the data. Who's that? The brokerage firms. The brokerage firms are now controlled by the banks. Those two are pretty much together, and we know that they've got the wirehouses now trying to sell life insurance. Some of them do a good job. Some of them don't do such a great job. And we've got the government who's got the data on us. But let's look at the one in red, the property casualty agencies. The property casualty agencies have incredible amount of data on their clients, not only their personal line clients, but their commercial lines clients. So you've got the data. Now how do we take advantage of it? Here are some life insurance industry trends just to share with you, again, numbers from LIMRA, that half of all U.S. households, 58 million, say they need more life insurance. And among those households with kids under 18, they've got the greatest need. There are 11 million of them without any life insurance whatsoever.
That's amazing.
And
amazing.
It is.
That's scary.
We have there's a different mentality out there today than there used to be.
Wow.
And 1/3 of affluent households say they don't have enough coverage.
Oh, I never knew that. All of this is amazing.
Yeah.
What a market.
LIMRA comes up with some incredible facts.
Wow.
Now, many Americans have no one to turn to because 80% of households don't have a life insurance agent or what we call a financial services advisor in today's environment, and most say they never did. And 6 in 10 boomers, if they're going to purchase any types of products that we market, they want to do it face-to-face because we are relationship people, and I am one. So there's this tremendous marketplace out there and this tremendous need, and there's this gap in filling the need because we don't have the number of independent agents on the street we used to. So property casualty agencies that cross-market properly can really grow their profitability. So what keeps underinsured people from buying life insurance? Well, a couple of things. One is they have other priorities, so they're procrastinators, as many of us are. But more importantly, they think they can't afford it because they don't really understand that the products that we do offer are extremely affordable for people, younger people, as well as people that are baby boomers and maybe need some coverage that they don't have. And the knowledge factor, that's a big issue. The products we market today are different than our parents' products, our grandparents' products. In the old days, when I got in this business in 1978, we had whole life, we had term. Today, it's a completely different ballgame. So there's an educational factor there, and the industry hasn't done a good enough job in educating the public on the advantages, not only with a tax-free death benefit on life insurance products, but other tax advantages as far as tax-sheltered income, tax-free income that can be generated out of these products, guaranteed lifetime income from annuities. We're the only distributors of products can do certain things. One is guaranteeing a lifetime income. So they just don't understand the products that we market. And of course, I mentioned procrastination and reluctance to initiate buying. 54% haven't got around to it. So our job is to, in a professional way, seek them out and engage them. This is something I learned a long time ago, and when I first got into the business, and it holds true today. Consumers will make somewhere between 7 to 9 or 10 financial purchases during their lifetime. And if you think about it, if you're a property casualty agent or own an agency, if they're not purchasing these products from you, they're going to go down the street and buy them from someone else. Now, I'd like to ask, and this is a question that I ask principals in every meeting, and this really, to me, is one of the high points of the presentation. and I say, has this ever happened to you? Let's talk about scenario number one. Commercial client comes to you and says, my CPA says that I need $3 million of life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And you say to them, well, sure, I can handle that. I have a life insurance license, and maybe you go out to a company like mine or another nationally known life wholesaler company and say, I need $3 million of term insurance for my client because you may want to try the most cost-effective, and that may not be the cheapest overall, but you come out and you provide something to your client
Mm-hmm.
because you don't really have the complete knowledge. It's not your area of expertise. It's something which is secondary or tertiary to you, but you still have the license. So anyway, you put the coverage on the client, and now your client's got whatever, the $3 million of life insurance. That's the positive scenario. Now let's talk about the second one. Commercial client comes to you and says, George, I just bought $3 million of life insurance from Mr. Jones, the Northwestern Mutual agent down the street.
Mm.
And you go, well, I could have sold you that. I have a life insurance license.
Where have I heard that before? Oh,
yeah,
man.
client looks you in the eye and says, you never told me.
They never told me. Amen.
You never told me.
Oh, I've seen some
And you know
statistics.
what? They all shake their heads. When I get to this part of the presentation, everyone kind of looks at me and goes, yeah, that's happened to me.
Well, I've always heard that from sales guys, not just a life and ever, but the vast majority of people don't really understand all the things that independent agents sell. They just don't know, and they always say that if they did know, they would buy from you. So I think that's really what you're saying here.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a communications issue here, and there's an area of expertise, but we cover those bases. So you don't have to be afraid. If you've got the license, you've got to figure out how to do the marketing.
Right.
Who's got the better relationship? This is interesting. Focus groups tell us that consumers would like their life insurance agents to stay in touch with them as often as their property casualty agents. Now, I know that there are many clients of property casualty agents that have never spoken maybe directly to the agent, but CSRs are in contact with them. We're getting things in the mail. Where quite often a lot of life agents, unfortunately, have potentially sold a life insurance policy to someone and really not followed up. Maybe they were new, they're out of the business in a year or two because it's a tough business. But the better relationship is with a property casualty agency. So we say, why not take advantage of that relationship you have with these clients for financial services marketing? Here's how we do it. We know that on the property casualty side, most agents are dealing with property and casualty risk. And many of the agents stop at that point, forcing or providing the opportunity for that client to seek solutions to another risk area, which we call human asset risk, from another agent or even a multitude of other agents. So what you've done here is you've created your own competition. So what we do is we take the property risk and we add another risk area that we explain very carefully, and we call that risk human asset risk. Now, a human asset risk are risk far greater your client's family or business than any potential property or casualty risk. We put the two together and we provide a program which we call total risk analysis. It just makes good sense to handle all risk areas. Now, the solution is quite simple. We provide a disciplined strategy for assisting the property casualty agency to establish a successful marketing plan for financial services. And I'm going to back up a little bit to the beginning of my presentation when I said to the agency principals, we've heard it all before. I had a life guy in here, I had a life gal in here, it didn't work. They took my client, they caused a problem for me. And you know why? Because 80% of these deals fail because they weren't planned properly. They weren't thought out. They weren't planned properly. They were never put together. They brought a person in and say, okay, well, start making calls or whatever. And they dealt quite often with a life agent that didn't understand the mentality of the property casualty agent. And that's extremely important. So again, we review your concerns as a principal or an agent, retention of your accounts. And then we talk about presentations, and here's where it gets very important. If you're going to send someone out there, you're going to introduce someone to your good client, say it's your good commercial account that you've had for years, you want to know exactly what they're going to say to that client and exactly how they're going to approach that client, because you want them to conduct themselves in a way that makes you proud, that is professional, and represents your agency. That's where our program comes in, and we call it the Alliance Program, which was developed and used and proven by Travelers Insurance Company to market financial services in a multi-line environment over many years. In fact, when I started with the Travelers back in 1981, my job was to be a red carpet salesperson for commercial accounts of our property casualty agencies. Now, you really can't do that anymore because we're much more sophisticated. You can't go in to a presentation with one company's portfolio. You've really got to have the opportunity to market the product that fits with that client. So you got to make sure you got to put a round peg in a round hole these days, which is really very consumer oriented. And we're all dealing with a big I in independent insurance agents, and we know the value of your trusted advisor service and the value of having multiple markets available for your clientele. So we designed a simple bridge presentation that bridges the gap between property casualty risk and human asset risk, because quite often, not only the principal doesn't understand exactly what we do, but we have to explain that to the client also. So it empowers your agency with the ability to serve all of your clients' insurance needs, and they get it. It's a simple to integrate presentation, and understand it. It's easy to understand, and as I said earlier, George, and we mentioned back and forth, we do have guaranteed results.
Wow, that's scary. I think I'm going to go in your business. I like that business.
It works. Thank you. Yeah, well, you're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
It works because of a simple, logical, natural process so often overlooked by both the property casualty agent and the life agent. It's an extension of the level of service that's provided by the property casualty agency. We've got an established service relationship where the property casualty agency does, and all we do, and it's so simple, but it works, all we do is extend the service relationship into our human asset risk area. So many times I've gone in initially with an agent years and years ago, and he introduces me to a client and says, let me introduce you to Marlin. He can sell you life insurance, health insurance, annuities, and what does that client do? First of all, sits back in their seat, folds their arms, and says, they're here to sell me something, and they clam up. That's not what we do. We do not sell product. We offer a service, and that's what separates us from a lot of the deals or these relationships that have not worked over the years.
That's really an important thing that you just said there. That one really gets to me, because a lot of agents really don't have a specific service understanding of their own agency, and we're going to put a lot of emphasis in years to come on understanding your agency. But if they don't do that, they'll never get the life thing. Keep going. You're doing fine.
Why TAP works? Well, it works because there are no hard sell tactics. So you know what? You're not going to have a gorilla in a blue suit coming into your agency, not if you're working with us. This is completely put together in a very professional manner. It's a simple bridge presentation, as I mentioned earlier, that links your established property casualty service relationship with our human asset presentation. If you follow the program, you will get results. Now, I explain it by a concept I call the cliff theory. And the cliff theory works like this. As a property casualty agent, when you first went into the business, chances are that you sold a product. Maybe you got in and had a chance to quote, and you saved the client some premium. You may have enhanced some of their benefits, but we know that there are a lot of moving parts in your end of the business. So over the years, you developed a strong service relationship with that client. And relationship is what we're talking about here, because that's the most important thing. So all we do is come in and we build a presentation that's really a natural progression into the service side on financial services, because when you think about it, that scenario one, the guy says, you know, I can sell you the life insurance, and he goes and does it, but again, here he's selling a product. So he may go out there not completely understanding our business. He may not sell the right product, the right amount, or whatever, but there again, when you're approached on the financial services side, many agencies, and we're still up in the high numbers, 70, 80%, are reactive as opposed to proactive in financial services marketing. So what we do, we build in a presentation that is 100% service-oriented, and after we provide the service, if the client feels that a product is appropriate, they will tell us.
Let me ask you something right there. What do you say 100% service-oriented? What do you mean?
We don't talk about products. In a few seconds, I will give you an example of what we call our client risk analysis presentation, which is the presentation where we actually tie in the property risk to the human asset risk, and we explain it directly to the client. So everything we do is, our products are voluntary in most cases. People aren't required to purchase our products. So what we have to do, and we have to disturb the client in a very professional manner, so they realize that they may have a problem, a human asset risk problem that they haven't taken care of. So that's why it's called service-oriented. We try to present them with the facts and the potential things that could happen to their business or their family or their home or whatever it may be, and let them make the decision. Once they realize they have a problem, then we provide the solutions.
Okay, thank you.
How the alliance works. Well, there are three areas to it. One is called the Ben Duffy. Then we do a thing called the human asset risk analysis, which we will do shortly. And then the third is what we call the ASP, the appropriate subsequent presentation. And that's all customized based upon the needs of the client. Bernard Cornelius Duffy was a high school dropout from Hell's Kitchen in New York, and he went to work in the mailroom of BBD&O in the late 40s. And that picture looks like it was taken in the late 40s.
Yeah, I think so.
He worked his way up to president. He was an extremely intelligent man. And one day, when he was president of BBD&O, the big account that time was American Tobacco, because back in the late 40s and early 50s, as we know, everyone smoked on a fairly regular business, and the cigarette business was major. He was on his way over to talk to the president of American Tobacco to try to secure the account from another agency. So on his way across Manhattan, he said, what can I think of? What questions can I use and present to the president of American Tobacco relative to what he would want to ask me? So he came up with three questions, and they are, who am I? Why am I here? And how do I do business? And every time with our presentation, we train our agents and people working with us, consulting in the agency, to ask these three questions. First of all, let me tell you who I am. Let me tell you why I'm here. And third, let me tell you how I do business. And how I do business is what we call the human asset risk analysis. So what I'd like to do now, George, is just in less than 2 minutes give you that actual presentation that the financial services representative would make to the commercial account or the account of the property casualty agency.
Great.
So now, in response to how I do business question, Mr. Jones, let me say that a significant part of my job is to provide clients of the Simonson Agency with an important service called human asset risk analysis. Now, let me explain specifically what that is. All individuals are exposed to risk of almost every description, but those risks really break down into two categories: property risk and human asset risk. Now, in your dealings with Mr. Simonson, I know he's carefully explained the property and casualty risk that you may face every day, be that fire, water damage, work interruption, E&O, D&O, all the things that can endanger your business and its operation. Now, in each case, you have had a decision to make to cover all of the risk, to cover part of the risk, or to cover none of the risk. In determining this, you and Mr. Simonson worked as a team. Once the risks were analyzed and all the facts were weighed, he helped you select the best course of action for you to take in light of your individual situation. So, it's also important to follow that same risk analysis procedure in another risk area. We call it the human asset side of your business, because that represents an even greater risk to your business than any potential damage to your plant, your store, your business. When I speak of human asset risk, Mr. Jones, I'm primarily talking about you. You built this business, you manage it, you make it run. Think about it. Without you, it's going to undergo drastic change and may even cease to exist. And because human beings are mortal, it's a certainty that someday this business will have to operate without you. And when that day comes, Mr. Jones, certain things are going to happen to your business, and most of them are going to be bad. So we feel it's important for those risks to be analyzed and explained to you the same way we did on the property casualty side. We'll tell you what those risks are, and when we do that, you have the same decisions to make that you had on the property casualty side. Number one, to cover all the risk, to cover part of the risk, or to cover none of the risk. Now, these decisions are entirely yours to make. Our job is to point out what the risks are, explain what they are, and give you our recommendations of what you can do to either eliminate or substantially reduce them. Fair enough?
Fair enough to me.
That's our presentation. Now, you notice one thing. The word insurance was never, ever mentioned in that presentation.
Yeah, good.
And that is intentional because we are providing a service. And when you present this presentation to the clients, they completely understand it. Now they understand the difference between, you know, what Mr. Simonson has done with them and what we are doing on the human asset risk side of the business. At that point in time, I would say to them, Mr. Jones, if you don't mind, I'd like to either spend another 30 minutes with you or schedule a second appointment to come back and just see how you feel about a few things. I'd like to talk to you and get your thoughts on some things. So here again, we're not going in there talking about insurance-related products. We just want to meet with a client, see how they feel about a few things. And that's very important. Now, when we go through the presentation and we finish our fact finder, I may use a line like, well, you know, Mr. Edwards, would you sleep better tonight if you knew we were working on solutions to some of these human asset risk areas that we discussed today? So I beg the question. The client's always going to say yes. Because at that point in time, they realize, you know, I do have some gaps in my coverage. There are some things that I should have considered that I haven't taken care of in the past. And at that point in time, they're very thankful to you, and you developed another client for the agency. And remember the old State Farm study, if you lock in that third line of business, your odds of retaining that client go up to about 90%.
Amen.
And that's our presentation. What TAP provides is an operational review for the agency. We'll build an entire business plan that establishes an effective financial services marketing program in the agency. If the agency is looking for direct point-of-sale assistance, we can help in that respect. And we have all advanced marketing and technical support available.
Let me ask something right there. You said direct point-of-sale assistance. How can you do that all over the country?
Well, what we do is we will go out, and we have access to independent life agents throughout the entire country, plus we have agents throughout the entire country because we are a national IMO, and we do distribute products across the entire country. So if it's someone who we're already working with, we have a history on that agent. We know their qualifications. We know how sophisticated they are. We know what advanced skills they have. Now, what they have to do at that point in time, if we make a marriage within the agency, is we have several agreements that we like to put into place.
Good.
And we do this service at no cost for the agency. So what we're telling them is, you know, we do not charge for this consulting service, but we do require you meet certain marketing criteria in order to make this work. And that's the guarantee part of the presentation that we talked about. If we do it and we do it properly, it will work. So we'll make a referral of an agent into that agency.
I got you, but the agent is not going to go work full time for the. He's an independent life agent or whatever.
That's a great question, George. That's a tremendous question because I was going to approach that. There are two ways. Many agencies say, well, I want control. I want to hire someone in here and come in here and work for the agency. And that's completely doable. We have non-piracy agreements. We have all kinds of things put together to protect the property casualty agency. And that's why some of these things haven't worked in the past. They weren't put together properly. But we also say, you know, a great way to test the waters on this is to work with an independent agent. And if you work with an independent agent, we also have contracts available to protect the agency. We do a 50-50 split on the business. The prospects are provided by the agency, but they've got certain criteria they've got to meet in the marketing plan to provide qualified leads for the financial services advisor. The financial services advisor has got to use our proven program, cannot deviate from it, so we know exactly what's done in that respect. And they develop a relationship. Now, quite often, these relationships, when they work, turn into a full-time business relationship, and the financial service advisors may eventually, because they're so successful with it, actually go to work within the agency, be that to set up a separate corporation or whatever, but that's how it works.
Good. All right. Next step is where we go from here.
Well, we have a program called 6 Steps to Success. And actually what this is, there's a workbook, and it's all digitized and everything, and it's really our marketing plan. Now, obviously, we customize these plans with each agency, but it really starts in the beginning, and it says, okay, you know, here's what we have to do. You know, few have done it effectively. Many of the larger agencies have been marketing employee benefits for years, and we run into that a lot. Well, we have a benefits division. Sorry to say, but quite often benefits divisions are very good at selling group insurance, but they're not good at doing the buy-sell for the principals of the company they sold the group insurance. They don't handle rank and file or other executives in the firm and tell them what they can do, and analyze their human risks. So it's almost like a different animal. So if they have a benefits department and they want us to work with them, we'll train the people in the benefits department, but it makes it a little bit more difficult. We go through 6 steps, and really what we do in the beginning is we start and say, okay, the first thing we have to do is analyze your data. We got to look at your database, see what kind of marketing you can do with the database, and you know, and that's quite helpful with a company like Agencies Online that works in the marketing end with the property casualty agencies, and then we take them through step by step. And we have specimen letters in there, pre-approach letters, we have sales concepts. Pretty much everything you need is in there that we use when we build these programs.
How does the agent, I mean, do you just provide this at no cost, or do you, what's the step for the agent to get your services? I'm not saying it very well, but
the first thing we like to do is talk to the agency principal and learn a little bit about their agency, and then tell them how our 6-step process may work in their agency, and we share it with them. So we can show you what we do, what we've done. We have 2 websites that they can go on, and we actually have a little property casualty website that talks about what we do, and that's called thebollingergrouppc.com. And we have testimonials on there from agencies throughout the country we work with. So we like to talk to them, do a little interview with them, and see if there's a way that we feel we can help them. And then we share without cost or obligation some of the things we do, because it makes such sense. And I think we do it quite a bit differently than other companies, and it seems to work out for us. So we don't mind sharing some of the materials we built. And this is a proven technique that we developed at the Travelers years ago. And here I'm a little bit biased, but the major companies working in property casualty agents, and George, you've been around for a while, back in those days were Travelers, Aetna, Hartford, the St. Paul, and they all had financial services people coming in, and you know, they all used to have programs. Travelers had a tower program. Aetna had a program, forget the name of it. I was in a casualty agency. I went out and did this in an agency for 2 years to prove that it would work.
Oh, good idea.
That's how I started. I left the Travelers from 85 to 87. I went out and did this in an agency. It worked tremendously, and then I went back to the Travelers in 87 and stayed with them until 2003, and actually worked with the marketing department in building this entire presentation and program. But a lot of it had to do with the way I was trained to be a red carpet salesperson way back in the early 80s.
Well, I tell you this, I tell you, Marlin, I feel vindicated, because normally we don't on Monday morning we don't really do kind of a sales pitch. Not that this was. I mean, you gave us some great basic information, and which we needed, and then but you do have an answer, and I have not seen anything like this. in the country over all these years. And so I'm very happy to do that. And I know that we're going to be working together a whole lot more. I want to encourage people to take this Monday morning and give it to the rest of your use it. I tell you, it would be good to use it as an agency meeting. That'd be a good idea. Let your staff see this. Let them understand it. Let them understand the next step. And how do they get hold of you then, Marlin? Here we go. Okay.
They can reach us by calling 800-503-1633. That's 800-503-1633, or just go on one of our websites. We have 3 websites, and that's another thing. We are so comprehensive in our marketing skills here that we built 3 websites. One is thebollingergroup.com. The second one is tbgannuity.com. And then there's a third one that I mentioned, but it's not on here, which is thebollingergrouppc.com. And if you go in there, it talks about what we do, and that's appropriate for property casualty agencies. And then you can hyperlink into our other websites from there. I'd like to also tell everyone, if they'd like to learn more about how this program works, you can go on Amazon. I wrote a book called Cross Marketing. Here's Your Wake-Up Call. And that book really details all of this, and it gives real-life scenarios of how I got involved in this, and the agents that I've trained in the past, mostly up in the area around Washington, D.C. in those 3 years that I was up there from 87 to 90. But it gives a good background on really the history of this program and why it works and how we've used it in agencies in the past.
What's the name of it again?
Cross Marketing. Here's Your Wake-Up Call.
Okay, you go to Amazon and then just put Bollinger and I'm sure it'll pop up. That's great. I'm going to get that myself. I might have to even learn something here. Marlin, listen, thank you. We've got to head off now, but this is really good background, and I'm glad you've done it, and I appreciate the time and effort that you and Greg Simonson, who works with you, have done to make this really meaningful, because it is meaningful. And I just I thank you again, sir. Okay.
Well, I truly appreciate it, George, and it's a pleasure and an honor being able to spend time with an industry legend such as you.
Oh, you can be an industry legend. All you have to do is outlive everybody. That's all. Okay. Thanks. I appreciate that very much. And for the rest of you, I'll see you next Monday morning.